What is going on, Boiler Nation? It's Tuesday night. It's February 6th, 2024. It's time for a brand new episode of the Boiler Breakdown Podcast. I'm Tanner Lee, co-host Evan Webb in the house. What's going on, Webby?
It's going, man. Happy to be here.
It is going. Happy to be here. Happy to recap yet another big Boiler victory. But first, we got some business at hand to talk about, and that is we are part of the Big Banter Sports. I always want to say Big Ten because the logo big stands for Big Ten. Big Banter Sports. We're their affiliate for Purdue basketball and football. If you haven't heard already, so go check those guys out at bigbantersports.com. You can find all 14 Big Ten schools on their podcast for all 14 Big Ten schools. And they already got some set up for the 4 additional schools joining next year when the conference expands to 18 teams. So, but if you're here, you're already ready to listen to us talk about some Boilermaker basketball. But we got to give a shout out to those guys because we are pumped to be under their umbrella, to be affiliate on their network, and chop it up with our other Big Ten brethren here in the future. And check out their weekly podcast, Big Ten Huddle, if you haven't already.
I should be on tomorrow night. That's the plan. That's the
All
plan.
right. I was going to say either Evan or myself will be making an appearance sometime in the near future, and Evan just laid it out there. So
cat's out of the bag.
Do you know who else is going to be on the show by chance?
I did, and I totally forgot. I think
right.
Brant was going to be one of them, which he's kind of yep, and then Joe Jackson.
Okay, awesome. That'll be fun. That'll be a good time. But so we only got one game to cover tonight, but boy, was an exciting one. Purdue went up to Madison Sunday on CBS. It was a 1:00 national game. Bill Rafferty on the call. That's always fun. Mm-hmm. They took down the then number 6th ranked Wisconsin Badgers by a final score of 75-69. I don't know about you, Webby, but this was one of those games, even when it was tied at halftime, even when Wisconsin was chipping away in the second half and was closing the deficit, I never really got very nervous.
Couldn't say the same.
Okay, all right.
No, I felt good at halftime. Just again being up to, Zach had 5-6 points, which we've seen that quite a bit. Where Purdue plays pretty decently, and Zach doesn't have the stats to really write home about, and then he comes out in the second half and kind of does his thing. I'd love to see Purdue getting out to a double-digit lead in the second half, and then they start chipping away. I was a little nervous, but every time I kind of got nervous, Purdue either made a play on defense or was able to get a bucket. Fletcher came up big, hitting some nice clutch shots. Lance Jones was incredible. Zach, had some nice plays down the stretch. They were able to get the job done. And I was feeling actually really good until Braden had that pass stolen from at half court, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is if we lose, that's going to be why. Is that play right there? Because it was we had a chance to, knock it out.
The game.
Yeah.
I know what he was trying to do there. He's a pretty good foul shooter. So he was trying to dribble it out and get fouled, but he got himself trapped in a triple team, and steals happen. Looking back on it, I wish he would have made one more pass, but
yep. Yeah.
You can always say that later after the fact. But things got hairy at the end a little bit. The press, that wasn't even breaking the press. It was more inbounding the ball.
Yeah.
It was becoming an issue against the press. But Purdue found a way to get it done. Looking at the box score, like I said, Purdue outscored Wisconsin in the first half 34-32. Then in the second half 41-37 for a final score 75-69. Zach Edey was not the leading point getter for the Boilermakers. That went to Lance Jones, who had 20 points in 34 minutes. He also added 6 rebounds and 3 assists to that.
Only 30-3 on Purdue.
And he takes some ones. You're like, all right, settle down, Lance. But
yeah,
when Purdue needs big shots, he makes them.
Mm-hmm. It's a Lance Jones experience.
I know we talked about this on the podcast last week, but I knew Purdue was probably getting a solid player in him. Never would have guessed this is what they were going to get out of Lance Jones. Yeah. I never thought he was going to be a contributor scoring the basketball like he has been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been at the very least coming out. I just wanted him to be a solid defender. So that way, we had him, and then Morton coming off the bench or whatever it may be. Then maybe a guy who can go get a bucket every once in a while. But yeah, I never expected him to have multiple 20-point games this year, and it'd be a good thing for Purdue. Like, because sometimes you just have these guys where I remember back in the day, Willie Dean, if he scored over 20 points, it usually resulted in a Purdue loss because he was taking too many shots. But Lance, he takes a couple here and there, but again, it's like, he had one in the second half where like it was one of those like no, oh thank God, okay, he made it, okay, we're fine, and then like it's just against the Lance Jones experience, and
yep,
I'm here for it.
Yep, me too. Ted Berkey here on YouTube says perimeter defense seemed good on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
He played great on AJ Storr. He was the guy I was the most worried about, just because he's an athlete, he's big, he's 6'7", especially I figured Lance was going to guard him, and Lance is 6'1" maybe on a good day. So he obviously gave a ton of height there. And, I know AJ or Storr had a drive at one point. He drove right at Edey. They didn't call a foul on Edey. I was really surprised they didn't. He used to do a good job staying straight up. I was like, man, he could do that every single time. And eventually he's going to, I figured that's what I would have done if I was Wisconsin, just have AJ just drive right at Zach every single time until they, make him call a foul and all that, because he's such a good player. Played a little too much hero ball at the end, but he's definitely been able to take this Wisconsin team to a different level than they had last year.
Yeah, and Wisconsin was what, 3 for 19, I believe, from 3-point range. Something around that. I don't have
3 for 19. 3 for 19. Yeah, Max Klisman was 2 for 4. John Blackwell was 1 for 2, and everybody was 0 for. AJ Storr was 0 for 4. Connor Sejan was 0 for 4, which thank God, because I figured again.
Yeah, he can be a flamethrower.
Yeah, he doesn't get a whole lot of run, but like when he comes in, he can be one of those guys who can just come in and get you, three buckets right away from 3. And he had a couple tough shots, but thankfully they weren't from deep.
Yep. Yeah, but to Ted's comment there on YouTube, yeah, I thought Purdue as a whole did a really good job in perimeter defense. I mean, some of those looks were wide open that Wisconsin missed, but overall, I thought Purdue did a much better job defensively than they did against Northwestern, which still, I'll say against Northwestern, I mean, going back to the game, they just hit some tough shots, though. It wasn't always like Purdue's leaving a Bowie or Barry wide open. So, no, much better.
I feel like we did. It's when they missed them.
You're right. You're right.
That's the crazy part.
Braden Smith poured in 19 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Really good game for Braden. And I guess the official didn't like him flexing midway through the first half.
And I wonder, I wonder if it was the same guy, because I know he was complaining to one of the officials earlier in the game because he got hit in the face twice by Chucky Hepburn. And I think he said something to the official. I'm sure he probably wasn't happy about it, obviously. So I wonder if that's the same official. I haven't gone back and watched anything, but I thought that was really interesting because, did you watch Trey Jackson Davis play last year?
People do that stuff all the time. Honestly, if you're going to call that, you probably should call or warn something on Fletcher Lawyer for doing the big ball celebration. That's kind of worse than flexing. I would say.
If Braden had done it at the guy or had chest bumped him, 100%. But he was doing it to his teammates and it just felt like a guy, the official, just inserting himself where he didn't need to be. And it seemed like that guy was talking to a lot of the players all the time, over explain. I don't know. It was annoying.
Yeah, it was for sure. Zach Edey, Big Maple, Torontosaurus. That was one I heard over the weekend I'd never heard before. I think that's a pretty good one. 18 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists in 36 minutes. Much better from the free throw line than he was Northwestern. Still missed a couple, but much improved.
Well, he became he tied Evan Turner's record for Big Ten Player of the Weeks with 10
times.
And then he broke the school record for most double-doubles in a career with 55. Yep. So and I know he's really close to breaking Joe Barry Carroll's rebound record. I think he's about ready to pass Trace Jackson Davis for 5th all-time in the Big Ten for rebounds, and then Joe Barry's 4th. So when he passes him, he'll be top 3. So it's incredible. I can't get over it. And
he's the 3rd player in NCAA history to have 2,000 career points, 1,000 career rebounds, 200 career blocks, and 60% career field goal percentage. Those other 2 guys he joined, David Robson and Patrick Ewing.
I think they did okay in their careers.
Pretty good company to be in. So if he
I was listening to
follow up their careers at the next level, I'm sure he'd sign up for that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Fortunately, different times than when those guys played
You're right.
for big men.
You're
But
100% correct.
now I was driving home from the gym. I was listening to the Coach Painter show. Paul Lusk was on today, but they were Rob Blackman had mentioned that stat, and I was like, because they're talking about you have those types of numbers. You're talking greatest ever. There's always a debate of depending on what Purdue does in the tournament. Could Zach be considered the greatest Purdue player ever compared to Big Dog? I feel like I feel like the easy answer would be yes, but I think it's actually a lot more convoluted than it is, just because Big Dog could do so much on his own, where Zach needs to be set up with a pass. Like, if Purdue game's tied with 20 seconds left, you inbound the ball to Big Dog and just get out of the way. Versus Zach, you have to set him up and all that kind of stuff. But whatever. But I was driving home and I was thinking about that. I was like, man, I remember back when Kobe died. I remember thinking like, man, because I used to, as a kid, I know I hated on him just because it was the popular thing to do, and hated on Brady, and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of like after that, I was like, I really need to stop hating on athletes, just like when they're like the great ones, just for whatever reason. And so I've tried to really appreciate great athletes when I see them, regardless of sport. And it's just like I never thought that I'd be talking about a Purdue player when I thought about that, because it's just like it blows my mind how awesome he is, and just even the fact that he's an even better kid as well. To follow that up, but he's been so much fun to watch, and I try and really soak in every time I watch him play just how awesome he is and how much we'll miss him in the future and just how special he is.
I think Caleb Biggie Swanigan helped me appreciate Zach Edey more, because what Swanigan did in 2 years, especially sophomore year, was pretty incredible at the time at Purdue. And I feel like I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have, especially looking back now that he's passed away, unfortunately, and everything.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of, once Zach started coming on last year, I'm like, okay, I gotta let this soak in. And then
I even thought about this because listening to Boiled Sports, one of their recent podcasts, they were talking about Zach creeping up in the all-time scoring list, and could he pass Mount and all that, and the fact that E'Twaun Moore is third, or he's third, right?
Yes, he's third.
Yeah, it's just like when you look at back at that time, obviously, Robbie got a lot of the headlines because he was, everyone just loved Robbie. Juwan was the big man and all that, but like, E'Twaun was just Mr. Consistent. Like he was like you watch. I always see the Ohio State game at Mackey from 2011 circling the internets, whenever, and like he's just incredible. And like I was just like, man, I wish I could go back and just like really appreciate how awesome he was, because I just feel like granted, we were high school, early college, so like it's easy to take that for granted, but like, man, he was so special. He was
good. He was good. He was an overall good basketball player. He was good at everything. And he was, like you said, Mr. Consistent. Like you said, Robbie kind of got the headlines. Juwan was Big Ten MVP, first team All-American, then first round pick. E'Twaun was late second round pick, but E'Twaun outlasted the other two in the pros.
Yeah.
Which my dad always told me, he's gonna be the one that lasts the longest in the pros. I didn't really believe him, but my dad was right.
Well, I remember, was it Illinois where he kind of had his coming out party as a freshman, or it was at Illinois, he like went off. I remember, because I was a freshman in high school at that time. I remember coming into like basketball practice the next day, and one of our assistant coaches was like, yeah, he's not gonna be there all 4 years. And I was like, I hope he is. And thankfully he was. But
yeah. That's a great, he definitely one of the more underappreciated. And it's hard to say that, because I think he was in a group, everybody paired those three. So I don't want to say he was unappreciated, but he was the one that didn't get the spotlight. And looking back on that, man, look at the stat, look at the records, look at the stat books. So yeah, very good comparison there. Other guys that played well, Fletcher Lawyer, 12 points in 29 minutes.
Did not shoot a three.
No.
When the last time that happened in his career?
He's getting pretty aggressive with driving the ball, and I'm all for that when teams are going to allow it. So then also in the scoring column, we had Trey Kaufman-Rim, 4 points, 4 rebounds, 17 minutes. Mason Gillis only 2 points, but he had 6 rebounds, 2 assists in 22 minutes. Camden Heide played 11 minutes, did not score. Ethan Morton, 10 minutes, did not score. Caleb First, 5 minutes, did not score.
I feel like Ethan's put 2 really good defensive games together between Northwestern, and like he's obviously, he gets a lot of flack from the fans, which whatever. But I thought he's been awesome the last 2 games from a defensive standpoint, and which is like, everybody's got a role, and he's doing it to the best of his abilities, and I think he's doing pretty damn good. So
yep, the only complaint I have, and it's not necessarily his fault, fouling.
Yeah. 3-point foul.
Sometimes he finds himself in the wrong spot at the wrong time.
100%. Yeah.
Tyler Wall for the Badgers at 20 points in 36 minutes, added 7 rebounds, 5 assists. AJ Storr at 14 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist in 29 minutes. Max Klesmith had 10 points, 1 assist, 2 rebounds in 29 minutes. Stephen Kroll was held to 8 points, 5 boards, 1 assist in 28 minutes. Chucky Hepburn, that's a name Purdue fans, of course, remember from banking in the 3 his freshman year. 6 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds in 36 minutes.
He was only a freshman that year?
Maybe he was a sophomore, but I thought he was a freshman.
I think you might be right.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago, whatever he was. I thought he was a freshman. Maybe he was a sophomore. John Blackwell, 5 points, 1 assist, 3 rebounds in 14 minutes. Connor Esijan, like Evan mentioned earlier, 6 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist in 12 minutes. Nolan Winter, 0 points, 0 assists, 3 rebounds in 12 minutes. And Carter Gilmore, zeros across the board in 4 minutes. So Tyler Wall got his a little bit down low, but that's all right.
Yeah, and as we were watching the game, and I meant to text you guys this, and now it's been a bunch of people have said it, but I was like watching him play. I was like, God, he reminds me so much of Ethan Happ, just like the way like he moved, because Ethan Happ could move really well down low, mannerisms, like he had really good footwork, and yeah, he just, I mean, I think part of it too was just Zach sagging off to not foul him, too, but he was able to get his. Yeah,
Wisconsin's got a good lineage of getting guys like him, Wall, Happ, Kaminsky, Brian Butch.
Yep. Krabbenhoff,
even though he was more of a goon. Yeah. He's on their staff. Yeah. I don't know if you noticed him the other day.
Well, he's the one who got into the skirmish with Howard last year, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw the Krabbenhoff pick on Lou Jack from 2009, 2010. That was something 2009, maybe 2008. Circling the internet. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I think it was the 8-9 season.
Yeah, I was trying to remember like what year could base off the jerseys, but yeah, that was one of the more dirty hits I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, he's fine sitting there, and then his forearm comes out.
Yeah. Lou Jack's 5'9". Oh, just at his waist. Yeah.
Smoked him. I remember watching that play live and just going nuts. So.
I remember I went off. Yeah.
I mean, and now we see what some crazy flagrant 1 foul calls in today's game. Can you imagine if that?
Oh my God!
What happened now?
Could be ejected. I mean, it probably flagrant too, easily. I would think.
I would hope so. So, yeah. But overall, good win. It's always fun to go up Madison, come away from the Kohl Center with a win.
Back-to-back wins, because we won last year. Because last year was when we clinched.
Yes,
the Big Ten.
Won by 2 points. Yep. So pretty good track
back-to-back in Madison. Yeah.
It would have been the Baby Boilers first 2 years.
Yeah.
They did that. So, but yeah, it's a tough venue to play, as is any Big Ten venue, and really around college basketball, about any venue you go on the road this year. I can't remember a year where so many ranked teams are getting knocked off on the road, and so many games are going into overtime. I don't know what that says. I guess just parodying college basketball.
I think, just the thing, just with the transfer portal and guys being able to move around, like you got guys, maybe playing at, maybe some of the more premier teams that then don't get much playing time, so they maybe transfer down to, maybe middle of the pack in in the same conference or something like that, or maybe a lower conference, and then there's obviously really good players. I mean, they were on those teams for a reason, so it kind of makes those games a lot much tougher.
Right. But I'm glad Purdue has this week off. Get some rest.
Yeah.
I feel like they need it, even though they're on a roll. Don't get me wrong. I feel like they just need it from a conditioning standpoint, and rest up and get that team from down south. The Indiana Hoosiers coming into town for the second matchup of the season. It's going to be Saturday night, 8:00 on Fox, so national game. First meeting between these two back on January 16th. The Boilers won 87-66. And honestly, 21 might be about where the point spread is on this one.
What do you think it's going to be at?
18.
I was going to say 18.5, 19.5. Yeah. I think maybe it depends on how their game tonight goes, which as we record this, there's 17 minutes left in the second half, and they're currently down 49-34 at Ohio State.
They suck.
They're really bad. Oh, 36. They're down 13 now. So
they are not good.
Hate to see it.
It's another one of those cases where it doesn't always matter how much talent you have. They have to
Mhm.
get together as a cohesive group, and your coaches have to make adjustments. And I don't think the players getting along. I don't think coaches are making adjustments, and I think they're going to come in with their heads held so low on Saturday. And I know it's a rivalry game, and a lot of times you can throw the records out, but Purdue remembers them coming into Mackey last year and winning by a score of 79-71. And now the guys who were um, doing most of the work for Indiana are gone. Jalen
Thank
Richard
God.
and Trace Jackson Davis, and
Thank
even
God.
but but nonetheless, a lot of these guys
Yeah.
are back, and the Purdue players. I mean, it's pretty much almost the same team.
Mhm.
Slash, you just insert Lance Jones for David Jenkins, and Brandon Newman's down in Western Kentucky, and so these guys remember that, so they're not going to take it
Yeah.
lightly. I guess what I'm trying to say is I know a lot of times you throw the record books out in rivalry games, but if Purdue was to lose this one, it would be a very bad loss.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier before we hopped on here. I was like, because I was talking to my wife, who's an IU grad, and she's watching this game against her will. Is what feels like she's not having fun.
She's a diehard if she's
She
watching
is, yeah.
at this point.
It's yeah. I almost feel bad for her. I don't, but I almost feel bad. No, but I was thinking, I told her, like, man, you guys came into Illinois pretty and played really, really well, and Illinois was a really good team, and you guys played really tough. I was like, you could do that, on Saturday, and then in my head, I'm like, but also like everybody on Purdue remembers them coming in and
Yeah.
kind of kicking their ass last year in Mackey. I was like, man, maybe not.
And they'll be coming in on a 2-game losing streak, but it feels like more than that,
Mhm.
honestly.
Yeah, could have been easily than three.
Yeah.
The Iowa game was kind of stupid down the stretch, but um, yeah, I mean, going back to what you said, you look at their roster, they've got 3 5 stars in their starting lineup,
Hmm.
and that's more than Painter's ever had in his career.
Hmm. Hmm.
um, yeah, it goes to that. They don't have Xavier Johnson's not who they were hoping he would be, or who they thought he could be. I guess a lot of them thought that he could be one of the best point guards in the Big Ten, and that's been currently be farther from the truth. That one resides in West Lafayette. You could argue one in Maryland as well, but Maryland Braden's on the better team. I think part of it too, like especially with this game, like I'd be a little more worried if they had more guys from Indiana on this team, because I just feel like, again, you can say what you want about which team cares about it more, but I feel like when you grow up in Indiana and you're around this rivalry, like whether or not you had a side growing up, like you knew people who went to either one of those schools, and you remember probably going to watch parties with your friends to watch this game, and they've got Trey Galloway, they've got Anthony Leal, who doesn't really play a whole lot. But Trey Galloway, he seemed to be the only player who really gave a crap the first go around, at least in the second half when they were trying to make their run. But last year, you had guys like Trace Jackson Davis, who was Indiana Mr. Basketball and all that. I think you could really he remembers, getting whipped his first 2 years against Purdue, and he's kind of led the charge the last couple of years when they were able to beat Purdue. So I think it does say something, for these guys like Malik Renew's from Miami, Khalil Ware's from Arkansas, Mackenzie's from New Jersey. It's like those guys, probably heard about Purdue, Indiana, maybe, but when they were growing up, it was during the Archie Miller years, so there wasn't a whole lot to talk about during those games. Like it's not like it was like must see TV like Duke, Carolina. So I think there is something to say. I think there is something to say about having guys from the state in this rivalry, because it just kind of feels, it probably just means a little bit more because they've been around it for so long.
Well, and I was thinking about this rivalry and about this game and really the state of the Indiana program. We're coming up on 37 years
Mm-hmm.
since the last time they won a national championship. And I
Mm-hmm.
know we like to poke fun at that, and for good reason, because 37 years is a long time. It's older than you and me. The people that remember that well are getting older and older and older.
Yeah.
To like your point, a lot of these people coming into college anymore, they weren't even around for Indiana's last Final Four run in
Mm-hmm.
2002 when they were runner up from
There's
Maryland.
there are kids upperclassmen. It was it's going on 22 years. So you're talking
Mhm.
like seniors in college who maybe weren't alive when were maybe just being born the
Mhm.
last time and then obviously anybody younger wasn't alive to see it. They've seen. Like us. I don't. You were alive. I was not in '92 when they made it. So it's like technically in my lifetime, I was born.
Barely alive though.
You were barely alive. I was I was 7 months later.
Yeah.
But we've seen. I've seen Butler make the Final Four more than
Yes.
and Purdue combined. Because
Mhm.
Purdue's never made it. So it's crazy.
Well, we've seen Notre Dame come closer to a Final Four since
Mhm.
Indiana's last Final Four than Indiana.
Forgot about that. Yeah.
I mean, it's just. When you look at the Indiana program, they've had more coaches out of the Big Ten schools. They've had more coaches since the year 2000 than anybody else. And
Really?
yeah, by one. They've
I guess
had
because Bob Knight was in 2000 still.
yes.
Still
So
technically, yeah. So
Knight,
he got fired. He got fired in 2000, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So Knight, Davis, and this is not counting Dockage. Knight, Davis, Sampson,
Crane.
Crean, Miller, Woodson, six
Wow.
coaches. Purdue's had two. And Purdue's had two in about 45 years.
Yeah. Michigan State's had one, Izzo.
Yeah, in that time frame. Yep.
Yep.
I mean, there's been some other. Illinois had like four, but
Yeah.
yeah, they've had six. Northwestern's only had two. Bill Carmody and Chris Collins.
That's right. I forgot Carmody was there for that long.
Because he kept getting closer and closer, but finally they're like,
Michigan's had three. Was Amaker back then in 2000, or was that still too early for him?
That there was somebody else before
Okay.
Amaker.
And then Amaker, then was Beeline after Amaker?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and then obviously Howard, and then they'll have another one probably next year.
Yep. So, yeah, they probably will. But so, I mean, you take that in consideration. And, I talked about this on one of my other podcasts last night. And I'll preface the question to you. Do you think high school basketball players want to play in Bloomington, Indiana in the year 2024 like they used to?
Sorry, say that again. One of our buddies texted us, and it distracted me. So
oh, that's okay. Do you think good high school basketball players, want to play in Bloomington, Indiana in the year 2024, maybe like they used to?
Like they used to, no. I still think there is that. And I think it really depends on where you're at in the state.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I live in Indy, and there are some schools definitely on the south side that are essentially might as well be Bloomington North, where you drive down there and it's just like it just has a different feel to it. Up on the north side, I think like on the north side you got with Carmel and Noblesville. I feel like it's pretty evenly split. Some may even lean more heavy towards Purdue in some areas. But yeah, I definitely not like it used to. I mean, you could argue. Purdue's obviously the premier team in the state right now. I mean, I still feel like whenever there's I've still yet to see a kid from Indiana who's like like the best player in the state. Like it's Purdue and nobody else, or not even consider Indiana. Usually it's always like they're both there. Maybe you can make a case for Jaden Ivey, but we also were on him so early, and it may have been maybe too many people thought he was going to go to Notre Dame to really even give him a shot. So that was pretty much a coup by Painter and a great job. And obviously the Trey Kaufman-Renn. That whole story was awesome, but I definitely not like it's used to. I still think there's enough crazy people out there that pump up the tradition of Indiana basketball and the lure of Indiana basketball to these kids, where it's almost like they kind of get brainwashed. So I can definitely see it, and the media doesn't help. Either especially around again where I live in Indianapolis.
It's still baffled, and that baffles me because Purdue's the number 2 team in the country. They've been one of the best programs for the last 3 years, at least 3 years, if not a little longer than that. And they still don't get mentioned. A lot of times, like a day after a big win, they don't even get mentioned. Whereas if IU's in a loss, they're the headline story on the sports radio.
I'm
like, what the hell is it going to take? Is Purdue really got to have to win a national championship to get in that?
And I think part of it too, I think also comes from when you look at just in demographics, when you look at like Indianapolis, again, for example, because where I live, like a lot more Indiana grads will move to Indianapolis versus Purdue, because with Purdue, you got engineers who go off to
that's true.
Coast, Texas, Florida, these big companies, which it's there. The more and more coming to Indy, and especially with the business school now doing so much better, like I think there'll be a lot more coming to Indy, whereas Indy, they've got lawyers, doctors, IU Health, like all your doctors and nurses are coming up here. Your lawyers are probably coming up here. Again, your business people are coming up here. So I think that plays into it. Like they know their demographic and who they need to pander to, but also just I think just from Indiana being they having a good journalism school, and so maybe those people come up to this way and all that kind of stuff. I think that plays into it, but I feel like it's just from like reading message boards comments, it's definitely not like it used to be. Thank God. But yeah, it's still pretty crazy what like just seeing like headlines and like listening to the radio and all that. Like it's just like you'd think Purdue was top 25, nothing crazy, versus been ranked in the top 5 for the last 30 weeks of college basketball.
Exactly. And even where I live in Fort Wayne, I mean, you go around and I feel like it's getting better because of Fletcher Lawyer, Caleb First,
Biggie,
and Big E,
Ray
and then
Fell,
there's
yeah.
Ray Fell, and then they're even on the football side, over the years, Bernard Pollard, Rod Woodson, Anthony
Hmm.
Spencer, Landon Feicher, um, and then even the Snyder's got a really stud girls basketball player that's committed to Purdue
Hmm.
for next year.
Yep.
Her names escape me off the top of my head,
Yeah, I know you're
but
right. Yeah, I'm escaping it too.
but so I think it's getting better. But like you go to the malls or sporting goods stores and stuff, still Indiana heavy, maybe even Notre Dame more than Purdue, and it's just so frustrating. It's like
Yeah.
Purdue's got one of their sister campuses right here in the city, Purdue Fort
Hmm.
Wayne. It's not even affiliated with Indiana anymore.
Yeah.
It just drives me nuts, but it is
Yeah.
what it is. And I guess my preface, what I was trying to say about this whole thing was because I can hear IU fans already get it if they hear this already just coming at me about the Bloomington, Indiana comment, right? Because they would say the same thing about West Lafayette. And while you and I love it, and Boiler Nation loves it, I understand a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people view it as one of the worst Big Ten cities. But I will say, I think Purdue's basketball culture overrides what West Lafayette doesn't deliver
Yes.
in a
I
recruiting
would agree.
standpoint,
Yeah.
whereas Indiana has a culture problem. It's not
Yeah.
just a head coaching problem. When you've gone through 6 coaches since 2000 and you're just a revolving door 3 to 4 years,
Mhm.
should Mike Woodson be fired after this year? Maybe. I personally think he'll get another year, but maybe he
Unless
should.
like this bot unless like they go winless and they get blown out, like then you can maybe make a case. But again, it's like it's the problem again with hiring, a legend.
Yes.
Would you consider Mike Woodson? Because you think about Indiana basketball's had so many amazing players, things like obviously Calbert Chaney, Isaiah Thomas, and all these guys who have won.
Right.
Steve Alford have won national championships, and he never did. But I mean, you also hear like he's Bob Knight's favorite player supposedly, and all that. So like you have that.
He's not in the top tier, but he owns a lot of property in Bloomington. I mean, he was like an NBA player, NBA coach for many years, which he's trying to run an NBA style offense. It's not working at all. It's like an early 90s NBA style offense. But I guess how many times you got to go to the well to your Mark Cubans and your big time boosters? They just bought out Tom Allen's contract. I mean, how many times you have
Archie?
Yeah, you got to revolve. You got to revolve. Got a revolving door for coaches every 3 to 4 years. That's not how you produce a winning program. So I don't know. I just find it comical because it's been this way for so long.
Yeah, it's always eventually you feel like they have to hit on somebody because it's just like a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
Well, they did for Tom Crean for a couple of years, and
yeah, that's true. But it's just like I remember, and granted, like at the time, I think he was a really good hire. Like when Archie Miller came in, I remember thinking like, "Oh boy, that could be bad. Like that could be bad for us." And like when they got Romeo Langford, I remember like just like again being here in Indy, it was like I couldn't like even though I don't follow IU accounts on Twitter, like it all my timeline was Romeo, which again, granted he was top 5 player in the country coming out of high school.
I muted him. I think I muted Romeo on my Twitter.
Probably it was probably smart to do, but like it was like all the media was like all right, Indiana's back. Like this is a new legacy, yada yada, and then 4 missed tournaments, 0 wins against Purdue in 4 years, and it's crazy. And then like again, Mike Woodson comes in. Some people think we're obviously more critical. Again, coming to like no one else was trying to hire this guy was kind of the big thing. But then obviously like there were some that was like, well the outside hires didn't work. Might as well bring in a new an inside guy. And then obviously he has a little bit of success. He beats Purdue for the first time in forever. And makes the tournament his first year. He shouldn't have. Stupid Illinois and Michigan in the Big Ten tournament helped them get in, but makes it back to back. I think that's why I think the back to back tournaments will definitely save his job this year. But they've got a 5-star coming in next year, and I'm sure they're going to spend out the ass on the portal this off season. And then the fans will be right back to saying they're back and all that next year. But we'll see because it's interesting because you hear stories about Woodson and company and all that, and you wonder if some are true or not. But it's interesting. You wonder how long he'll be there, anyways. But we're just so lucky to have Painter, and thank God Bob Knight didn't want him. Thank God.
Yep. It's funny how it works out. How it works out.
Well, because didn't he take? I don't know if it's true. It was before really our time, but I think they said he took Todd Leary or something ahead of him instead of Painters, or so. I'm not sure if that timeline matches up. People who
I haven't heard that. Okay,
I saw it on message board, so it's could be true, could be the biggest lie in the world, but someone's like, I thought I saw someone say like, thank God they, Bobby took Todd Leary versus Painter
Well,
because things could be a lot different.
yes, they could. But looking back, the history of this rivalry dating back to 99. A lot of the games have been pretty close. Of course, the game earlier this year wasn't. But one we had to painfully sit through in 2013 was an Indiana win at Mackey, 97-60. Any chance this game on Saturday could rival that?
No chance. I think. I was going back because I was like, man, Painter's not mean enough to do that because Crean left the starters in so late. Like it was definitely like he was making a point, which I mean, it's a rivalry, cool. Like I mean, it sucked being there as a student and all that, but Painter would call the dogs off, which part of me is like, I almost kind of like that. It's like, oh, we feel bad for you. We're just gonna we'll call the dogs off. This is getting too bad too soon. Like so, I go back and forth if I want. If I'd rather have Purdue blow them out or give them a pity party and put the walk-ons in with 8 minutes to go.
I think that'd be fun. I think they put Berg in. They'll be like, oh, God, they got another 7-2 guy. And they know we have a 7-3 and a 6-10 guy coming in next year. And, but no, looking forward to it. I always get pumped for this game. Saturday night, Fox, like I said, national televised. So hopefully it goes the Boilers' way. Let's go ahead with predictions and the MVPs for the game.
Prediction, I think Purdue wins 87-68.
87-68. Okay, so you think it's going to be closer than the game in Bloomington?
Yeah, I think Purdue's up like 25-30 at one point in the second half, and then again he puts in the scrubs, and then the CJ Gunn hits a couple garbage time threes to get it closer than it actually really was.
Okay, that's fair. Well, I'll up it a little bit. I'm gonna go Purdue 90, Indiana 64. 96.
That'd be sweet. I hope it's that. Yeah, I hope it's
pretty close. And here's a prediction for you. Everybody in Mackey gets slim chickens because somebody's missing 2 in a row for Indiana.
Yeah.
Free throw line.
Malik renews the MVP because he misses the free throws. My player of the game for Purdue, I think Zach has another 30-10 game. Just again, last time playing IU, more than likely. I think he just goes out just hanging on rims in front of Khalil Ware.
I'm going with another senior, Mason Gillis.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Mason pours in 15 points. 15 points,
Ooh.
6 or 7 boards.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm hoping because they haven't shot the ball well last couple games. I'm hoping Purdue just range threes.
Yeah.
Like early and they like gets it. So I think they'll come out fired up, ready to play, but I hope Purdue can just punch him in the mouth right away and just kind of keep him at bay the whole rest. Yeah. Just kind of like last game.
Yeah, I agree.
Looking at some games right now. Actually, IU's got down to 9 at the under 12.
Rutgers not great either.
Rutgers went into Maryland and got the win. Wow, I was not expecting that. Yeah, Maryland was kind of
maybe we'll put Maryland 13th in our power rankings next year.
Ooh, that's not good. The fact that Rutgers were on the road, oof. And then you got Michigan State at Minnesota, which Michigan State's got a big week this week.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, Minnesota's not. I mean, they're not great, but they're no slouch on the road. And then obviously they have Illinois coming in on Saturday. I think they're before our game.
CBS game on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yep. But, hey, want to go ahead and predict some games?
Yeah, let's do that. Do you think Ohio State holds on the rest of this game?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is they were up like
they're
15.
Not good either. They're not good.
They're not. They're really bad. They're like I was watching that game earlier, and it was just like I turned to my wife. I was like, I'm trying like this is all. Like I'm putting all my Purdue bias aside, but this game is horrendous to watch. Like just from a basketball standpoint, like as a fan of basketball, I was offended watching that game.
Awful environment. I mean, I've been there when they were number 1 in the country. Purdue was number 10 back in 2011. It was an awful environment that night. It's a beautiful arena. Way too big. It's like 20,000. It's an NBA size arena.
Yeah.
It just they don't care. They don't care. Even when they were making Final Fours, in national championship games, they didn't care. So.
Yeah. Tomorrow we got.
I didn't know we had them overnight.
Oh no, yeah. Wisconsin at Michigan.
No,
Wisconsin dropped to
Wisconsin.
11th. Yeah,
Michigan
Michigan's really
stinks.
bad.
They're bad. They're
Um,
really bad. Talk about a bad loss to Rutgers. They were up pretty big late in the game, and then
mhm.
Rutgers flipped it on them pretty quick.
This one actually could be really interesting, depending if the road team plays like they did on Sunday. But Nebraska at Northwestern, 9 o'clock Eastern on Big Ten Network on tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought this up because I wanted to ask you this question before we predict this game. So I think you're in agreement now. I mean, Purdue is in sole control of the Big Ten now, and for
Mhm.
first, and then you got Wisconsin, Illinois. Would you say the tiers are kind of Purdue tier one, Wisconsin, Illinois tier two? Then you got a tier of Northwestern, Nebraska, Michigan State, and then everybody else pretty
100%.
far below
Yep.
them. So out
Yep.
of those three teams, Nebraska, Northwestern, Michigan State, who would you predict is the fourth team to get the double bye in the Big Ten tournament in Minneapolis?
My heart wants to say Northwestern,
Mm-hmm.
but my head thinks Michigan State just because of its Izzo.
Yeah.
And they've got, again, Tyson Walker and those guys. I feel like they're figured out. I mean, they weren't a great team last year, but I just feel like, Millie Call's starting to play a little bit better. I think they're starting to figure it out.
Yeah. I think I agree with you there. With that said, Nebraska has not won a Big Ten road game. Northwestern needs this one after dropping 2 last week, losing to Purdue, then
Mm-hmm.
in overtime, then losing at Minnesota in overtime. I think
Yeah,
it'll be a close one. I'm going to take the home team in Northwestern in this one.
I am too. Yeah, they're going to be. They need it. I mean, Nebraska played so well at Illinois, really, really well. Could argue that some calls at the end went with the home team's way. I mean, shocker. The officials. The
Yeah.
calls go the home team way towards the end. But yeah, Nebraska really impressed me because that's a team who hadn't won a road game. I don't think they've won a road game at all this year, and they damn near went into Illinois and beat them.
Yep.
But I think, maybe that's like maybe a bit of a deflating game for them, and they in Northwestern kind of just goes off. Thursday night, 7 o'clock BTN, lone game. Oof, Iowa at Penn State. Penn State coming off a big win at Indiana over the weekend. That was like a 15-point win or something like that.
Good week for Penn State last week, winning at Rutgers and at Indiana, and without their
leading scorer.
Yeah, so maybe it's addition by subtraction. I don't know. I doubt he's a bad influence on the team, but I don't know. Iowa's tough to figure out. Penn State's a tough place to play because nobody's there. So I'm taking the home team. I'm taking Penn State.
I'll take Iowa just to be different. And it should be a fun game. I mean, both teams play pretty fast, not a whole lot of defense. So I'll take Iowa. Saturday, we got a full slate. We already predicted the Purdue-Indiana game. We've got at noon on BTN, Wisconsin travels to Rutgers. Rutgers now coming off a big win at Maryland.
I think it's a good week for the Badgers. I think they bounced back from dropping 2 in a row, 3 out of the last 6, and win both games this week.
I'm gonna go with Rutgers. It's Jersey Mike's. I mean, you got a top team coming in. It's a tough place to play. Maybe they get a big shot of confidence from winning here at Maryland. I mean, they just slugged. I mean, they just dragged the game down into the mud. So I'm gonna take the Scarlet Knights, and then I mean, both these games, Purdue adjacent are pretty important because it depends on whether or not Purdue widens their lead or not, assuming they take care of business. Number 10 Illinois travels to East Lansing to face the Spartans at 2:00 on CBS.
I think Illinois is the better team, but I think Michigan State wins this one.
I agree. I think it's gonna be a really good game.
It was a good game the first time they played.
Yeah, so I think the home team. I think Michigan State. I mean, Illinois gets a whole week to prepare for this, so there is that. But it's the road in the Big Ten, and road teams typically don't fare as well. And I think Michigan State wants some revenge, especially depending on how tonight's game goes for them. But I think Michigan State in a very, very close one. 4:00 on Fox Sports 1, Maryland at Ohio State.
Well, Maryland just lost
at home.
I know I was just ripping Ohio State. I think it's a good week for them. I think they go 2-0.
I think so too. I think they get it done. And then, man, Michigan at Nebraska at 6:30 BTN. I think Nebraska.
Oh yeah, Nebraska can't lose at home. Michigan might not win another game.
Yeah. Rounding out the weekend, Sunday, Penn State at Northwestern, 1:00 on BTN Sunday.
Good week for Northwestern, I think. I've
Yep,
said that
I think
about a
it
lot of
was.
teams this week, but yeah.
And then at 3:00 BTN before the Super Bowl, Minnesota at Iowa.
No, they're not playing for the Floyd Rosedale Trophy in this one.
No, they're not.
This could be an interesting one, depending on how their games earlier this in the week go. But I'm going to take Iowa home.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna take it. The same thing.
Super Bowl, who you taking?
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Yeah, I can't bet against Pat Mahomes. I mean, he's been. I don't know why. I mean, it's crazy just how competitive he is. Like, just the fact that they weren't favored in their last game, like, and just how much that drove them to want to just come out and destroy, and they did. Yeah, it's hard to bet against them.
It is. He's probably the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. I'm not going to say he's the best yet. He's on trajectory to be so.
He's on track, yeah.
The frustrating thing, especially from a Broncos fan's point of view, is this was the year to get the Chiefs, even for the division. The Raiders or the Broncos could have got them, but they didn't, because I think they'll retool in the offseason some other positions. I would think they'll get them some more weapons.
Yep.
When they got a good defense. The only way I could stomach the Chiefs winning is if Karlaftis has a Von Miller Super Bowl 50 type game and wins MVP. Then I could stomach it. But I'm going to be rooting for the Niners, and I'm actually picking the Niners. Low scoring game, 20-17. Christian McCaffrey's my MVP.
Okay.
But I'm not even looking really forward. I mean, I always enjoy watching Super Bowl. You know, I enjoy eating unhealthy foods. Just watching the commercials. Even the commercials have been really bad for like 5 years now.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in Usher at the halftime show. So it's like you said, like
I don't mind them, but
I don't mind it. Yeah. I mean, I guess like they're now, which is really sad to think about. Like, I feel like the last couple of years they've really catered to like our generation.
Yes.
You had like, I mean, was it 2 years ago? You had like Eminem, 50 Cent, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, which that was an incredible halftime performance. But it's just like, it feels like, man, like these are now like old people for the you know, Gen Z. It's like I feel like they're catering to the. I was like, man, they're catering to some old people. I was like, oh, we're the adults now. Like we're the demographic.
We're in the 45 to 49 demo.
Yeah, so. I was like, damn.
Yep. It. But so I'm still looking forward to just watching, you know, the last game of the NFL season. But I wished we would have got some new blood. I mean, we saw these two teams play in 2020.
Which I totally forgot that right before the pandemic. Yeah. But I always kind of enjoy it because then it's just like, all right, then all eyes turn to college basketball. So
Yep. Even though the NFL is one of those leagues that it's always
never stops.
News. But you're right. It was just March Madness and then the draft and the Masters, I guess, if you like golf. Those are the big three things coming up. But Boilers getting a ring either way, Karlaftis or Jalen Graham. So yeah, it's good to see. Good to see. There's not a lot of good games outside the Big Ten as far as ranked matchups this week at all. I know Butler UConn tonight.
Yeah, sorry, Andrew. I don't think Butler's good. They've been playing pretty well. I did want to ask. So, just because this reminded me, I'm not going to say it yet, but if you had to pick one arena to go watch a big game at in college basketball, where would you pick?
Man, I haven't been to many.
Right, assuming you've been to obviously Mac, you've been to Assembly, you've been to Value City, Discount Furniture Arena.
And I've been to Chrysler before it got renovated. Up in Michigan, Chrysler Arena. I went in 2011, and it got renovated. I think the next year or 2 years after that. UConn is up 12-8. Considering
let's go Dogs.
Yeah. Something I will not say very often, but I will say that tonight. Sorry, Andrew. That's a great question. I've heard Fog Allen's the best venue in college basketball. That's what about everybody says. Cameron Indoor would be cool because it's so small and sold out and loud and everybody's on top of each other. North Carolina, the Ding Dome would be cool. Man, this is a really good question. I haven't thought because I'm going outside the Big Ten.
Have you been to Hinkle? Have you been to Hinkle? Have you been to a game at Hinkle?
Not for a game, but I have been to
Hinkle's. I just realized because I was like, I haven't been to any. I've been to Mackey. I've been to Notre Dame's stadium arena for INT. I've been to Hinkle. I love Hinkle. I love Hinkle.
Yep. Maybe Purdue will finally get some type of home and home with them eventually. I don't know. Let's see here. I guess I'll go Fog Allen just because everybody says it's the best.
That's what I'm going. Because apparently, I didn't get a chance to watch it. But apparently, their game over the weekend against Houston, which is absolutely bananas. Like, I mean, Robbie always gushes about. He says Fog Allen's by far the best. You know, Mackey's second. So I'm just like, And I guess there's like a museum attached to it, just with the history of of basketball. So like, I feel like I've got to go there. And I think my second one would probably be the Dean Dome, just because I've growing up, like obviously I didn't really care about North Carolina or Duke, but I feel like in that game, I feel like we all had like a team that we would cheer for, and I always picked North Carolina over that. And I love their uniforms and love that Tar Heel blue. So I think just going to a game there would be really, really cool. I've been outside the arena. I've been outside both of that and Cameron. Like when we were on vacation in North Carolina, we happened to drive by, and I wanted to say it, but yeah, probably my what's
that Mooney's got a good one.
Wouldn't say the best, but the pit
at New Mexico,
New Mexico is kind of cool.
Yeah,
I've
that
heard
is
Grand Canyon is an awesome environment too. Yeah.
I know the pit's a legendary one. Gonzaga, especially in their heyday, would be cool. The kennel, it's tiny.
Yeah.
Actually, it would suck because it's more from a viewpoint because it's made more for football. But when they're good, Syracuse and what was the carrier? Now it's the something wireless.
Yeah.
Which
I remember
having PTSD from the football game last year.
Yeah, I remember vividly watching as a kid. I think it was Jerry McNamara. Like they were really good. Like he hit a three, the place went bananas, and he was like high fiving people in the front row. I was like, man, that'd be so cool. You got like 80,000 people like watching a basketball game.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That's a good
really,
question though. I haven't thought about that for a while.
I think Fog is one that I'd like to make a road trip to for a big game.
Yep. I don't know if
I'd like to see, just because it's new, was it the Moody Center at Texas? I think like that's a brand new arena. Like, I mean, Matthew McConaughey spent $1 billion or whatever helping design that. So like to kind of see just how that went. And I guess technically we have been to the Yum Center, which that's a really cool arena. I would assume I mean, that was a really cool, obviously very different circumstances, but it was an awesome environment. So I can imagine if Louisville is ever relevant again, how that could be a really big home court advantage, because that place was massive. And I've heard actually, I think Tennessee's preferred that stadium that arena is massive. I think it's one of the biggest in college basketball.
Rupp Arena. It's
yeah. There's so many.
There are. That's a good discussion. We'll have to remember that one for college football season too.
Yeah.
To bring that up. But no, it's hard to believe it's already February 6th. March is right around the corner, and we're into the heart of basketball season where the conference races are really heating up, or people are starting to really widen themselves. And that's what I feel like we're starting to see around the nation. I mean, the big boys in every conference are starting to flex their muscles a little bit.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's crazy. It's already February, and we are coming down the home stretch, which is insane.
Enjoy every game.
Yep.
Don't forget it. Enjoy the journey, even though got to have the eyes on the big prize. I mean, it's time. It is time to do something, but still taking every moment because this team is fun to watch. Very fun to watch, and they're hated. And I've embraced it, and I love it. So. It's every college basketball show talks about it after Purdue plays about the officiating with Zach Edey, and I laugh or I get mad depending on who it is. So
right, yeah.
But I'm all about it. I'm all for it. Well, 8:00 Saturday night. I mean, every night and day is a good day for pizza. But especially Saturday night, nobody wants to cook on a Saturday night. You got a big rivalry game. It's the perfect night to get some Mad Mushroom. And the Boiler Breakdown podcast is brought to you by Mad Mushroom. Mad Mushroom has been serving Boilermakers since 1993, located in the heart of West Lafayette. Whenever Evan, Andrew, or myself visit, we like to sit down and have an ice cold beer by trying out their latest pizza of the month, which the pizza of the month for February is the Raging Cajun. It's their house-made Cajun sauce with celery, onion, green peppers, tomatoes, chicken, cup and char sausage, and mozzarella cheese, starting at $14. So get two of those bad boys, and you can get $5 off your order over $20. Any Boiler Breakdown listener or viewer can also use the coupon code BREAK5, BREAK5, all caps, at madmushroom.com, and you can get the discount that way. So get yourself some pizza, get yourself some cheese sticks, get yourself some wings, get yourself some sandwiches. If you're in the restaurant, get yourself some beer. If you're taking it home, stock your fridge up yourself. But either way, make sure you get some grub for Mad Mush Saturday night for the game. You will not be disappointed. That's Mad Mushroom. Feed your head. And that's not the only sponsor of the Boiler Breakdown.
We got the shop back again. The shop's been making hometown apparel since 2011. Started out in their garage. Now they've got 2 brick and mortar with a third on the way in downtown Indy. They make incredibly comfortable shirts. Makes everybody happy, whether you're a Purdue fan, Indiana fan, Butler, DePaul, Wabash,
Ball State.
Ball State. They've got everything for you. They got awesome stuff for the All-Star game coming to Indy in a couple weeks or next weekend. I think it's next weekend.
Yeah.
So they've got incredible stuff. But if you go to if you can't make it to one of their brick and mortar locations, go to shopindy.com, use promo code breakdown, you get 25% off your first order.
Yeah, you will not be disappointed. Like I said, we're usually wearing stuff from the shop. I got a hat I got from shop on tonight.
Got my shirt.
Make sure to use that discount code and get 25% off. Well, it's college football signing day tomorrow. It's hard to always remember that there's 2 signing days going on. It should be a pretty quiet day for Purdue. I don't expect a ton of action. Purdue is in on a wide receiver potentially to get, who's down to 4 schools. Let me pull up his information real quick so I don't butcher this. It is it's the number 5 wide receiver, number 27 overall JUCO prospect, Leland Smith. He's down to Miami, Mississippi State, Temple, and Purdue. All signs have been pointing Purdue for a while, so that'd be nice. We'd like to add one more addition to the wide receiver room, position that we can't have enough of. And that's about all I'm expecting. I know Purdue's looking for a punter. Our special teams coordinator was over in Australia not too long ago, which I love. I just love that. Tried to recruit a punter, and then they might try to sign a kicker too at a later date. So look for those on upcoming episodes of the Boiler Breakdown. But should be a pretty quiet day tomorrow. But you can follow us at Boiler Break Pod, and we'll have the latest recruiting news tomorrow of whatever comes to fruition, and especially on X, we'll get that news out. So, yes, sir. Workouts are conditioning's already started. So
like doing the content they've been putting out.
Yep, they always do a good job at that. So and then spring ball will be around the corner, and then football season will be here before we know it. But we're gonna enjoy basketball season first.
Absolutely.
So, any final thoughts, Webby, as we wrap this up?
No, just take care of business on Saturday. Leave no doubt. Send them home with their tail between their legs. They're actually only down 2 right now to Ohio State. It's a 2-point game.
It was just 10 points when I looked at it.
It was, yeah.
Even if they eke out a win, I'm not too concerned, but I'd rather them lose and come in with their heads hanging lower.
Under 5, and it looks like Ohio State just they can't hit a shot, and they just turned it over. So,
well, maybe we need to end this pod so you can get back out there because they were playing worse when you were watching. So maybe that's what we need to do. So let's end this pod and let's boiler up, hammer down, beat the Hoosiers.
Boiler up.